There's a book that is resurfacing more and more these days called The Kabbalion that goes over something called the 7 Hermetic Principles. Now, in this book, which is wisdom that has been passed down through the ages, it states that everything is mind, everything is mental. Within this book and many other teachings of Hermetism or Hermetics is a system or a blueprint for creation that truly will allow you to shape reality if you understand it and start applying it. These 7 Hermetic principles have been passed down the ages dating back as far as ancient Egypt. And the principle of mentalism, which is where the quote earlier in this video comes from, is more or less the foundation for the rest of these principles. Now, why is it that you should even care about these principles and go out of your way to learn them? Well, one reason is because they have been used by some of the most influential and successful people throughout history. These principles are tried, tested, and true, and I have experienced the power of them in my own life and seen the results my clients have gotten in applying them too much to believe that they don't work. And again, these principles can serve you and help you to create the life you want if learned and applied. In fact, a deeper understanding of these principles and laws were hidden from public view for the longest of times through royalty, through secret societies, and the elite. So in this video, I will dive a little more into some of these principles, give you some easy to understand examples and analogies to help you digest them more easily, and give you some tools that will allow you to start using them to shape your reality. So in the beginning, I mentioned a quote where I stated that the all is mind and everything is mental. And it's important that we have a working understanding of what this means before we go over the tools you can start using to apply it. Because with more awareness comes more potential power and energy. Now, the all is just another word that you can use synonymously with things like God or the field, the greater consciousness system, whichever one you prefer. Essentially, it is the infinite intelligence that holds all of this together, from which all of this comes out. So when I say the all, you can replace it with the word God or source or whichever one you prefer. That's going to help you to actually get the teaching here. Now, it is important to understand that we cannot conceive what the true nature of the all is. It is beyond our understanding and has to be that way anyway. We can only aim to describe it in the best ways that we can. One of the best ways that we can describe it is how the Hermetists describe it, that the all is a universal and infinite living mind. Everything that you see around you, everything that you could possibly perceive, and even everything that you cannot perceive all comes from the all. It is a mental creation of the all and therefore adheres to the laws of created things. Now, this is important because you are also a creation of this mind of the all. You are also under the laws of created things. So not only becoming aware of what these laws are is that valuable, but learning how to apply them powerfully in your own life. There is even a quote from a master of these principles that goes, "He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path of mastery." So basically, the universe is mental, you are mental, and you also have a mind that operates on this plane of existence. You create a universe of your own in your mentality in the same way that the all creates a universe in its mentality. The difference is only in degree. We create from what's called a finite mind, while the all creates from an infinite mind. Therefore, we can't grasp the sheer power, nature, or so on of the infinite mind, but we can look at it to get a better idea of how it works for us, and how we can literally create our own universe within our mentality. So you can almost think of the way in which we create through mentality as kind of a fractal experience of the way the all does it. Ours is finite, it's infinite, so we can't really grasp it, but it is the same thing to a much lesser degree. Now, it's actually one of the principles in the Kabbalion and in the Hermetic principles that shows us to be this case with the Law of Correspondence, which essentially says as above, so below, and as below, so above. And so if it works that way at the highest level for the all in its infinite mind, it works in the same way at least, to a lesser degree but of a like kind in our mentality as well. Now, this means that although we can't fully grasp the nature of infinite mind, we do understand that everything is mental and created from the mind of the all. And so as above, so below. We can do the same in our world with our own lives. We can use the mind to create our reality. That brings us on to the principle of correspondence in Hermetics or Hermetism. And this one, like I mentioned, states that as above, so below, and as below, so above. One way to look at this is that all planes of existence are in communication with each other. And remember, you are a three-part being. You are not just a physical being, you also have a spiritual side to you and a mental side, just to make it very simple. So you can think of yourself on a big scale as a three-part being. Now, where the law of correspondence comes in with all of this is on each plane of existence, if you're doing one thing from a particular place, it's going to influence the other and be replicated on the other. For example, if you think thoughts that are more joyful and happy, like happy thoughts, you usually have a corresponding reaction or response on the spiritual plane of existence with a certain emotion. And you can do it the other way as well. Now, with the physical is the densest of all of these planes of existence. It's more material rather than energy or frequency or vibration, yet it comes from those things. So if you maintain something long enough on your spiritual and mental planes of existence, you will start to see the physicalization of that in your physical world. We'll describe how this works a little bit more when we go over cause and effect, which is another principle of Hermetism or Hermetics. I think it's the sixth principle of Hermetics. But with correspondence, just understand that it states, as above, so below, as below, so above. Meaning that what you're doing on the physical plane of existence is absolutely corresponding or creating correspondence on the spiritual and mental plane. The things you're doing on the mental plane are creating correspondence on the physical and spiritual. There's correspondence on those and also on the spiritual. This is why we say things like what you get what you think about most of the time, or you get what you feel about most of the time as well. Because when you think about something predominantly all of the time, that is going to have correspondence, a communication also on the physical and also on the spiritual. And it works for all planes of existence. You can even use the physical realm to correspond differently on the spiritual and mental, or create a correspondence, a line of communication on those planes of existence. For example, you can affect your physiology, which can change how you feel and can also change how you think. You can change how you think, which can change how you feel and how you act in the physical world, and you can change how you feel to change your thoughts and also the corresponding changes in your physical. Just ultimately understand that they are all connected, they are all in correspondence, they are all in communication. When I began to understand this principle in particular, it made me become a lot more deliberate with my thoughts in particular, because so many people treat their thoughts like they're not real or they're not influential in their lives. They don't look at the thoughts they're entertaining or allowing to come in to their mentality. And it couldn't be further from the truth, because your thoughts play a massive influence in your life, not only in cause and effect, which we'll be going over in just a second, but with the principle of correspondence. If you're thinking in a certain way, it is corresponding with the physical and the spiritual planes as well, and influencing your decisions from those places as well, influencing what you're doing with those planes of existence. And so this principle in particular really helped me to understand I need to get a grip on my thoughts. I need to be more intentional. I need to clear out and find ways to not to hook in to thoughts that don't serve me. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. Are you at cause in your life, or are you at effect? Are you creating your story, or are you operating from the default script? If every cause has its effect and every effect has its cause, what effects are you creating in your life? I love the idea from this quote that chance is but a name for law not recognized, which is essentially saying that there is no chance or kind of redundancies in your life or in the way things are operating. There is a cause to every effect, and every effect comes from a cause, meaning that everything in your life has been influenced to be there, and in a sense you have created in one way or another. Now again, if we do not understand the law, if we do not understand these principles, then of course it looks like chance, or it looks like something that's random, but it isn't. And it usually is the result, the effect of certain causes that we are creating, whether consciously or unconsciously. Now remember how all of your planes of existence, all of you, is in correspondence, all communicating with each other. Well, cause and effect plays a big part in this as well, because you can can think of cause and effect like this, that the inner world or the spiritual or mental planes of existence are the causes that create the effects in your physical world. Now, there's definitely more kind of macrocosm and microcosms when it comes to this, but you can think of it in this way because this is how it usually plays out, that what you are entertaining in your spiritual realm, energetically, emotionally, and in your mental realm, your thoughts, your images that you're entertaining, allowing in, your thinking, will create the effects in your physical realm through cause and effect, right? The causes, the main causes in your life are going to be inner world based because the physical comes from, again, the inner world. The outer world follows the inner world. All is mind, right? It's infinite mind that's creating this universe. That's an inner world phenomenon. That's an inner world happening. And it's from that that the physical is born out of. And so if we influence certain things on the mental and spiritual planes of our existence, we create certain effects in our physical. Now, of course, there's also cause and effects purely on the spiritual plane, purely on the mental plane. For example, if you think in a certain way, let's say you think of thoughts that are not too supportive, you will have the effect of more of those thoughts starting to be reproduced or produced in your mental. If you start tuning into a feeling that's very negative, you're going to create the effect by doing that of more of those feelings appearing in your life in the spiritual realm. But understand that the physical takes time to catch up to the spiritual and the mental realms of existence, which you can access basically instantaneously. If you wanted to feel a certain emotion, you could probably think your way into that emotion. If you wanted to picture a certain thing in your mind, you could picture it instantaneously. It takes more time for things to appear in the physical because although the physical is actually of a like kind to the mental and the spiritual, they're all made of the same stuff. They are vibrating at varying degrees of vibration. The physical at much more dense degrees of vibration, and the spiritual and mental at higher, more rapid degrees of vibration. And the higher up you go on that pole, the faster it is, and things happen more quickly. But it takes time for them to condense and become more physical matter, which is of a much slower vibration, much more dense vibration. One analogy that I really love to explain kind of the time delay between the cause and effect coming from the inner world to the outer world is the mirror analogy and the smiling in the mirror analogy. You see how most people do it is they go to smile in the mirror, and let's say the mirror represents your physical world, and let's say you yourself, you represent your inner world. So you're smiling, you're entertaining good feelings in the spiritual world, you're thinking better feeling thoughts, you're thinking better thoughts, you're dwelling in the thoughts you actually want to reproduce and the emotions, energy, and motion that you want to reproduce, and you're smiling in the mirror. But because there is a time delay between the inner world and the outer world, the reflection in the mirror isn't necessarily smiling back. And remember, your outer world is simply an inner world reflection after enough time. It is an energetic history. So for a lot of people, they're smiling in the mirror and the image in the mirror is not smiling back. And because of this, most people end up giving up. They start to become people that are at effect again rather than at cause. Again, that cause, a lot of it starting in that inner world. So they stop smiling. They allow themselves to be hooked by their physical environment. They look at the mirror image and the frowns and the contours on the face, and they start to feel based off of what they're seeing. They start to be influenced by their physical world, take that on board, and now they're suddenly at effect to their physical. But if you were just to keep smiling genuinely in that mirror, and you were to keep dwelling in those emotions that are of higher conscious nature in your spiritual, thinking thoughts that are the same in your mental, you would start to see the lips start to curl upwards on the mirror image. You would start to see it slowly start to rise into a smile until eventually a full beaming smile is looking back at you. There's just a time delay because the physical is a much denser rate of vibration, so it takes time for it to catch up. But if you dwell in those places in the spiritual and mental realms or planes of existence, it will eventually match it via something called the law of balance. Essentially, you have to build up enough energy. You have to build up enough before the outer world starts to reflect this new inner world environment you're creating, for it to become a new energetic history that you're looking at. But if you keep dwelling in those causes, in your inner world, in the spiritual and mental planes of existence, it will start to create those effects in your physical. But just remember, every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. And again, chance is but a name for law, not recognized. And so when you're seeing certain effects in your life, you're seeing certain things like that, use it as feedback instead of something you think is just happening by chance. Because chances are there's something going on in your inner world, all these planes of existence corresponding, that is creating that effect in your life. Okay, so what are some tools that are going to help you to utilize these principles that I just gave you? We went over three today. Essentially, we touched upon mentalism, correspondence, and cause and effect. And that's all great to know the principles, to know the laws. That's fantastic. Awareness, again, it gives you so much potential power. But it's only potential power until it's applied and put into action, until you start actually moving from these principles and laws in a way that's going to serve you. So how do we go about that? So the first thing, speaking about mentalism, that we want to do is to control your mental diet. Because in this day and age, you are bombarded by messaging, by programming, by even what we could call brainwashing, so much stimulus, so much messaging, that if you don't intentionally create a mental diet or remove from your environment the things that could influence your mental diet in a negative way, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. So if you're watching things like the news all the time, you're browsing social media all the time, like on TikTok, Instagram, whatever else it is, you're getting those cheap dopamine hits, like you're at the casino using one of those slot machines, then it is going to be very hard for you to use the principle of mentalism in your favor. And in fact, you're using it against yourself, because as you are being influenced by these things, there are corresponding thoughts that are being created in your mental plane of existence, which are creating corresponding things on your spiritual plane and your physical, right? And so if you're not gaining control of your mental diet, being very careful of what you consume, not just physically in food, but also through your eyes, also through your ears, also what you're listening to, what you're watching, because these things will calibrate at a certain rate of vibration, at a certain level of energy. And you want to make sure that what you're consuming is pretty clean, high conscious, and is going to allow you to create what it is you actually want to create. Because if not, it is just going to condition you to create more of what you don't want. And so I would really encourage you to look at what you are consuming in this way, and if it's right to do so in your eyes, start removing especially things that are not serving you. And you can then replace them with things that are going to benefit you. Listening to beneficial audios, videos of this nature, books, getting into programs and coaching that can help you for a more kind of personalized feel, and so you can move the needle forward even faster. Exposing yourself to these things, going out in nature, by the way, because the vibration of nature is so pure, and just going out into nature with no stimulus but just connecting to nature, things of this nature are going to go a long way to assist you in doing this. Personally, when I've worked on myself with this or with clients, I found the most benefit, especially in the beginning, is in cutting out a lot of the noise and a lot of the junk that you may be consuming in your mental diet, and then starting to add in things that you can consume that feel good to put in there, right? Again, watching the certain videos, reading certain books, really engaging with higher conscious material, things that are going to influence you in a good way, things you want to learn, things that have a good energetic transference, or whatever else in that same realm. What this is going to do is it's going to create an inner garden on the spiritual mental planes that's much easier to work with. You'll be uprooting the weeds that have been planted there and you've been continually reinforcing, and you'll start laying out plants that actually bear fruit that you want in your life. Next, you want to know your dreams. You want to write them out and look at them often, because guess what happens when you write them out and you read them often? You think about them. And what is the all? It is mental. You will then think about your dream often, feel it often, which will allow the outer world to start presenting certain opportunities to you to allow for these things to begin to manifest. It also then makes it easier to think about them. It makes it easier to feel these feelings more often, because again, you're uprooting those weed seeds of what you don't want, and you're now planting seeds that are going to bear the fruit you actually want in your life. And again, if you do that long enough, after enough time, they will be reproduced in the physical. It just takes longer because it's a denser rate of vibration. So if you put your focus on a dream that excites you and you keep yourself there, you will start to notice opportunities that will help you on that towards that dream open up in your physical life. Now, I want to give you a final idea here that can really be like the master key to all of this, and it's the concept of feel great now. And just stick with me here, because this is so crucial. Most people are in this kind of paradigm where they think they have to feel great when. I'll feel great when I get that thing, when that person likes me, when I get that promotion, when etc., etc. We delay our ability to connect to these higher levels of emotions based on something happening in the physical typically. And what happens if we are delaying those things on our mental and spiritual planes of existence? Well, that's going to create correspondence, that's going to cause an effect on the physical, and it isn't the way that's going to help us. But if we feel great now, we focus on things that help us feel joy and peace and love and gratitude and abundance, that starts to have correspondence in all the other planes. That starts to create causes that produce effects. And then much more of what you want is going to come into your life. So much more is going to begin to move. Now, when it comes to this, you may find it very difficult in the beginning to do it because you're most likely conditioned to feel great when. That's okay. The game is not to feel good now all the time. The game is certainly to aim to do that. But that's an impossible task and way too much to ask. Instead, just simply come from this mindset. Anytime you're aiming to feel great now and you fall off the horse, your mission is just to get back on the horse as soon as you can. Ultimately, the name of the game is recovery. If you really commit to this and really aim to do everything we went over in this video plus feel great now and making that your goal, making that the game you play, all of this is going to start moving so much quicker. Now, if you really want to take this all to the next level in the shortest amount of time, the most efficient way, do it with myself and a group of elevated peers, then you can check out our reality creation program, EMF, which I will link down below in the description as the first link. And you can go over there and just learn a bit more of how it works to see if it's right for you, and also see the results that our clients have been getting to see if it'll be a good fit. Now, one other thing I want to give you is this video here, because if you don't know what your dream is or what your aim is that we mentioned earlier in this video, it's something to really put your priority on, because if you have no destination, it's hard to know where to go. It's hard to know when to take a left or a right or whatever else. So this video, I show you how to do this. I would go watch that next.